Hi, and welcome to another episode of Prinsights Global Spotlight. And I am so excited to be joined today by my friend, Kerry Stevenson, who also happens to be the founder of the Australian Gold Conference and has been instrumental in connecting investors with gold mining opportunities and other opportunities around the world. Kerry, thank you so much for joining me here on Prinsights Spotlight.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So, could you give us a little bit of a background? You have had so many different roles in connecting investors and miners in this space, how you came to that, and what you're doing right now.
That's a big question.
Huge.
Yeah. How I came to it was I was actually living in the UK for a number of years. I came back to Australia. This is the shortened version. In 2003, couldn't find work. I was either overqualified or underqualified. And my ex-husband suggested I start a mining conference. And I said, the only thing I know about mining is that's a large diamond. And he looked at me and he said, well, you're smart, learn. And so that got my goat a little bit. And I thought, well, damn you, I will. So it started off with me, I needed to do something with my life. And then I got curious because living in Australia, mining, everything is either mining or farming. And once you understand mining, it becomes so fascinating because it's all about the rocks, but everything we do is associated with mining. You know, your mobile phone, mining, the house you live in, mining, air conditioning, cars, alternative technologies, everything is to do with mining. And once you understand how that relates to our modern way of life, then again, I got a curious mind. I went, right, okay, I'm really loving this now. Fast forward a number of years, I now run the only conference dedicated, focused on gold in Australia, the Australian Gold Conference. Why? Because gold is money, everything else is credit. And I love to figure out what's happening with the devaluation of our currencies and why it's not associated with gold as it has been in the past. So that's the kind of quickish answer.
Well, what's really interesting about what you say is that so many people who don't look at gold as an alternative investment really should be, and that once you do, it really kind of sucks you into that the capacity of gold to be a part of a portfolio, and actually how gold and other precious metals, materials, minerals all come from the earth. They all come, as you say, from mining. You were also very instrumental in connecting me to the Brisbane Miners Lunch, where you just know everybody in mining in Australia, where gold and other forms of materials and elements are quite a component of that economy. So you talk a little bit about how all of these elements relate to Australia in particular.
Another big question. It's like, this question is like as big as a giraffe, you know, with a very long neck, because there's so many different answers to what you just asked me. And I guess in Australia, we have a number of resources. Obviously, Australia, Melbourne in particular, was built off the back of mining, specifically the gold rush back in the day. My challenge at the moment, Nomi, is that in Australia, so many Australians do not value mining. They dismiss it, they don't support it, and one of my passions is to get Australians to understand that actually our resources have given us the wealth and the prosperity that we enjoy today. That's the first thing. Secondly, I'm an investor, but I'm an investor with a curious mind. So again, I'm just passionate about getting everyday Australians who are very comfortable. And that's the challenge. When you become comfortable, you don't tend to care. It's like, well, you know, I've got my digits on my screen. In other words, the supposed money in the bank, and I can tap, tap, tap away until I don't have that ability anymore. And I just want people to understand that there is a real true connection with gold as a hard asset and that they should be looking at it as part of their portfolio.
So that's a really good point, because gold prices have just in the past year appreciated by about 24%. Mm-hmm. A lot of that has been on the back of central banks buying gold, but also there have been more interested retail investors coming into the gold space. Do you see that, and do you see that as evolving?
I see it just a little bit at the moment. The problem with, I guess, the mum and dads, the everyday investors, is they don't see it until it's not too late, but until the cat's out of the bag, if you like. In other words, right now, I think is a great time for people to start to understand about gold as part of their portfolio. But the people I speak to say, oh, yeah, but gold's really expensive. And my answer to that is, at the expense of what? Because you don't understand that your paper currency is being devalued even more than you actually realize. They just don't see it because they understand the digits on their phone. They don't understand gold. And they don't even understand how to start to buy it. So by way of example, knowing this, we've actually started an educational evening before the actual gold conference where we're going to show people how easy it is to have precious metals as part of your portfolio. It's sponsored by Bullion Now, which is one of our dealers in Australia. We're making it free, so there's no excuse. You know, some people say, I can't come because I work. Well, it's after work on a Monday. Don't want to pay money? Well, I'll make it free for you. Like, I don't know how much more I can say to people to say, you have to be there. People say, well, who's it for? If you're breathing, you need to be there.
And just if you could give us a couple of maybe highlights or summary of some of the things that you cover, because I can understand people look at, or even if they think about it or are new to it, the price of gold per ounce being $2,400. That sounds like a big number, but there are other ways to participate in investing in gold that don't cost $2,400. Are those the kinds of things that you cover?
100%. And you're right, Nomi, if you can't put food on the table, why the hell would you be looking at 3,500 Australian dollars for an ounce of gold? That's just it's something they can't get their minds around. But I say to people, if you're buying a cup of coffee in the morning, then you can buy an ounce of silver. You can buy a silver coin. It doesn't have to be gold. So we cover gold and silver, and we cover different ways of doing it. And also, you can open up a gold account. You know, I often say to people, do you have a budget? No, I don't. Do you know where your money's going? No, I don't. Well, you've got leaky buckets. I can tell you, you can put some of that currency into a precious metal, which is not going to be devalued over time. That's my passion. That's what they need to understand.
Yeah, and you've been doing this a long time, and recently all of us are concerned about inflation, as you said, the devaluation of what your currency can buy. And gold is a way to, at least for the future, lock in some of that loss and, in fact, appreciate your wealth over time, right?
Nomi, when you have governments around the world spending currency, because I can't call it money, when they spend currency like drunken sailors, then I just know the end is nigh. And I'm sure, you know, you've spoken about this, that we don't know what it is, but how much longer can we keep kicking the can down the road? You can't print gold. And that's what am I saying? You can't print gold. Gold and silver hold their value over time. But the interesting thing about silver is it has a usage as we move into this, the new technologies, the greener technologies like solar panels. Got to have silver in it. So there's a double use, if you like, silver as money, but also in use for all the new technologies coming in for our energy transition. So I think interesting times, people don't understand it. They do need to understand it, and I've forgotten what the question was in the first place.
No, I think just, you know, the people do need to understand that if inflation is eating into the power of what their money can buy, that gold and silver, as you mentioned, which is far cheaper and has other use values outside of gold, are ways to recoup some of that and, in fact, grow their wealth over time. So I appreciate that. You know, you've opened that dual idea of gold and silver. Thank you so much for your time here. And is there a way that people listening or watching can see some of your work if they're not in Australia?
Oh, if they're not in Australia, I do have a YouTube channel. Thanks for asking, Nomi. It's called Making Money Matter, and it's on YouTube, as I said. But also I have a website, Gold Events, or they can also check out kerrystevenson.com.au. Everything under one roof on that channel.
Thank you so much. And I have been on your YouTube channel as you have interviewed me, so I appreciate that in the past. Thank you so much. And thank you for tuning in to Prinsights Global Spotlight.
you.